As I told you, if the child got fever, if this fever goes more than 1 to 2 days, you have to consider it could be dengue, unless proven otherwise. So what we should do is that the first thing that we need bed rest. So the child may be having sport meet or a very important exam, whatever it is, but your life is more important.
Yeah.
So I think the parents, the first message should be, if your child is having fever, don't send them to school, and you should keep them at home and give adequate bed rest. And not only that, and plenty of things to drink.
Yeah.
I have to stress this again. So drinking is not only the water, because you have to give something containing salt, like fruit juices, king coconut water, so whatever it is, something other than water.
Right.
And
so they have to hydrate.
Yeah, you have to hydrate, but not with water.
Right.
Because low sodium is very common in dengue, and when you get it, it's very difficult to treat. So if you are careful and if you are giving them, like if you are hydrating them with something containing sodium, so that's good. And the next thing is that you have to be very carefully watching these children. So if they are not by themselves, like you are the best judges as parents, as a father or a mother. So if you think that my child is not like this, so that's the time that you should go to a doctor.
Yeah.
And about the test, of course, first 2 days you can do this dengue antigen test, so it's very important. But the problem with that is, if it is positive, yes, we know for definite you have dengue.
Right.
But if it is negative, you cannot rule out. What they say is the only 67% will catch with that disease. So the danger of it is that if you are doing your test, the results come as negative, so you are happy, so this can't be dengue. So you are relaxed and you are giving various medications as well as you are not resting, so that's the danger.
Right.
So you have to understand that part. But the most important test is the full blood count. It's a very simple test to be done on 3rd day, that is after 48 hours of fever. So with that, if your white cell count is less than 5,000 and if your platelet count is less than 150,000, then it says unless proven otherwise, that is dengue. Right. So that's the most important. It's a very simple test. It's not like it's very cheap, not like the antigen test. So that's the important thing. So the message that you should tell is that if you have a child, the child is having fever, don't send them to school and give them adequate rest, plenty of things to drink with the salt, and watch them carefully. And after 48 hours, you have to get this full blood count. By doing that, you can detect this dengue very early. By doing that, you can save the life as well as the complications. So by doing that, you can help us to save your children.
Right. Thank you, doctor. This is very insightful. Jason keeps running up and down, trying to grab hold of him, get him in here. Jonathan and Joshua, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. What did you do this morning?
This morning?
What time do you wake up? What time do you wake up in the morning?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, and you go to school. What about you?
What time do you wake up?
Okay. All right. Getting back to you, Tavu. Did you know when and where your kids, contracted the fever?
Yes, I mean that's the important part that I would like to share. I mean, a couple of years prior to that, Joshua, he got infected with dengue.
Right.
With dengue, and then we kind of brushed it away. But last year, when both of them got dengue at the same time, and Jason was fighting for his life, and the other one was in another hospital parallel, both of them were infected. What I realized was that it had to be from our compound somewhere. And we had looked around on the ground, we had done the search around the garden, but we didn't find anything much. But a gutter that had been filled with water, which was actually very close to his room, to Jason's room, was filled with water.
Okay.
And what we realized is that you know, we had I mean, he's the most protected kid. I mean, the 5-month baby is the most protected, you know, and then you get dengue. I mean, you can't, I mean, you wonder where did this come from? And it was clear that this gutter, which was just, you know, 10 meters away, was the source.
Okay.
And then we took the gutter off and took most of the gutters off from the home to kind of resolve the problem, and then the mosquito, the population just dived after that.
But now, since again, since dengue is just coming up again in Sri Lanka,
Yeah.
would you consider that paranoia is kicking in because you want to protect your kids, and like you would just look around everywhere you look, you know, you would always be like, open up, checking if there's water here or there? Would you actually, do you?
Well, the paranoia exists after, I mean, watching my son fight for his life, and you're just 24 hours, whichever way it's going to turn.
Yeah.
Definitely, we are much more careful about going out in the evenings. We are always putting some kind of repellent on them. We are always dressing them with, with longer pants. You know, try to keep them covered as much as possible. Unfortunately, this has to be resolved because it can't go on like this.
Of course.
Because our children now are kind of forced to stay in because they don't have the opportunity to go out and play in the evenings because the mosquito population, I mean, just picks up during the evenings. It's not good for the nation to have, the next generation inside because of this, the fear that we're going through.
True.
It will affect every aspect of our society. So I think some kind of serious decisions have to be made to resolve this epidemic, this kind of thing that's coming up into a pandemic level. So this needs to be looked at.
In your experience, dealing with a lot of doctors and dealing with a lot of places that are taking care of your kids, what about the healthcare system do you want to see change?
Oh, the trickle down of information. You know, you got LRH understanding a lot more than the rest of the country, and maybe there's a Negombo place I heard that's also handling dengue quite well. But the gap in information, the gap in the understanding of how to treat and to take care of the kids, or when it's an issue, this has to be bridged, and this bridging is taking place at a snail pace. Sometimes you think, you know, I mean, we are still having mistakes that should not happen, and the healthcare system has to figure out a way how they are going to get this information to trickle down to create a knock-on effect that everybody in the system understands how to manage dengue, because it's finally a 48-hour battle that it comes down to. You know, 24, 48 hours. If you go beyond that point, you have saved the child. So you need to move fast, and you need to know what you're doing during that critical phase, and that information somehow is not reaching across the whole nation equally, and the information is not similar. Healthcare system needs to change in that. We need to have that sorted out, and of course the breeding places have to be resolved.
Yeah, and now, like I mentioned before, you were hopping from doctor to place, and you finally found solace in Lady Ridgeway Hospital.
Yeah.
Is that what you recommend government hospitals?
Well,
Recommend?
I mean, that's definitely the most solid place to go to. By default, we were moved to Lady Ridgeway at the ICU to save Jason's life. But that's the place that we really see as the place that you can depend on a definite solution for your problem.
Doc, this goes out, we're almost out of time, but Doc, let me know, what are the tests you can do? Sometimes these tests cost a lot. A cheaper test for, like, maybe while you're even at home, how would you test your child?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, so the first thing that we can do is this dengue antigen, or the dengue rapid test, or we call it dengue NS1 antigen test. But the problem with that is you can detect dengue, but if it is positive, definitely we know that it's dengue. But if it's negative, you cannot rule out dengue in 100%. So the problem with that, or as a clinician, the problem of that is that people or the children are getting like relaxed. So they are having like false security in that this is not dengue, so I can do whatever I want. So that's the danger of that. But the most important test is the test which should be done after 48 hours of completion of fever. That's the 3rd day of the illness. The full blood count is very cheap. Anywhere you can get it done. And as I mentioned earlier, so if your white cell count or the WBC is less than 5,000, anybody can see this, or the platelet count is less than 150,000, so it is, unless proven otherwise, is dengue. So that's the time that you should seek your medical advice and you have to go to a doctor.
All right, Doc. Before we go into another commercial break, I really need to ask you this question: Ayurvedic treatments, would you recommend these? Because I've heard they've cured like 100 cases. Would you recommend it?
So the thing is, I am not expert on Ayurveda.
Okay.
I don't know much about it, but without getting solid knowledge or any researchers, so what we have found is that this is the way to treat dengue. So I can't answer that question because I know the Ayurveda is good, but I don't know whether it's good for dengue or not.
Right. All right. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you, doctor. I want to thank you for bringing your kids. Wait 1 second. If you guys would just give me 1 second before we go into a commercial break. Everyone just excuse me for 1 second. Jason! Jason! Would you come with me? Come with me, Jason. Would you come? Could we come? Just 1 second. Okay, just give me a second. All right, we're going to get Jason on screen before he goes so that people get to see what Jason actually looks like. All right, this is Jason, everyone. We're going to a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with more dengue. Say bye.